My name is Lori Werhane. I'm the chairperson of DCSEAC. I just wanted to let you know that I'm a parent volunteer for the organization. I'm also the parent of 2 children on IEPs, and I'm also a former district employee. I worked as a paraprofessional in SSN in a middle school. So I've sat on many sides of the table. So the first thing I want to tell you is, what is DCSEAC? It stands for Douglas County Special Education Advisory Committee. It's a really long name. What does that mean? Well, we're a group of parent volunteers whose children are receiving special education services from the district. We work collaboratively with the district special education team to help families in the district with students on IEPs to gain understanding and achieve world-class outcomes. So we're your voice. We work with you, and we work with the district as a team to come up with programming, resources, and information. Well, we do that with a lot of help, and we're slowly growing. Our goals are, first of all, to collaborate with school district on matters relating to continuous improvement efforts as they pertain to special education. We all have students in special education, and we all want it to be better, and we all want our children to be served. We also promote family involvement in decision-making by seeking advice on district practices and policies relating to special education. Again, we want to know what you think. We want to know what the district thinks. We act as an advisory board on behalf of students receiving special education services. The last 2 are pretty exciting. We're currently creating a library of resources and links for families with children on IEPs. We're currently in the process of developing a website and a larger web presence to give all of you a place to go find information about what you need to know about the IEP process, about special education acronyms, about what to do if you have an issue or a problem, and we're currently growing that right now. We also plan and offer a variety of informational speakers to help families of children on IEPs gain understanding. Tonight is one of those speakers. Our goal next year is to have a couple more speaker series, and we would certainly appreciate input from all of you for what kind of information you'd like to see. All right, slide 3. Who are we? We're made up of parents, and we're made up of district staff. If you are a parent board member, I'm going to embarrass you. Could you stand up and just wave? We all have purple name tags on. They're all waving at me. We all have, well, we're not. We all have purple name tags on. So tonight, if you have a question about SEAC, about special education, about who to talk to, come and ask us. We're happy to help you. We've been in your shoes. Let's see, and then also our district employees that help us make most of this happen. Okay. All right, something that we've started this year that we're very excited about. How many of you have received multiple emails about this? Yay! How many are decorating feverishly? Come on, come on. If you haven't heard about it, it's a way to recognize those special education or even general education staff who make your child's day special, who go above and beyond. You know, it could be the bus driver, it could be the lunch lady, it could be someone who you really want to recognize and say thank you. And if you do a great job and decorate it, please take a picture of it or scan it and send it to us. We want to see them and we want to share them. All right, how can you find us? It's a little bit of a journey to find us. The easiest place to find us is on Facebook. If you go out to Facebook and do a search for DCSEAC, you'll find us. We post our speaker series, we post links, we post information out on Facebook. You can also email us at dougcoseac@dcsdk12.org. We do a pretty good job of responding as quickly as we can. You can also find us on the Douglas County School District website. If you do a search for special education or go to the special education page, scroll down and there's a tab that says DCSEAC. We're working hard to help you find that as well. We have a link to that on Facebook as well. Oh, one more thing. If you signed up and RSVP'd for this program tonight, after March 7th and you gave us your email to add to our list, I'm going to ask if you could give it to us again. We had such a huge response that our SurveyMonkey RSVP system broke. You guys blew it up with your numbers. So we didn't get those last few emails. So even if you're not sure, give us your email anyway. We'll double check and make sure we have it. And then we'll include you on future email lists and information. So that is what I have to say. Now it's my turn to introduce the Douglas County School District Special Education staff is going to present tonight. We have a great group of people, our very best in the district. We're going to start off with Jennifer Templeton. She is a special ed coordinator for charter schools, and she's going to take over the presentation.
Thank you for being here tonight. I'm so excited to see all these faces. We're really growing as DCSEAC, and we're so excited that you're here tonight to learn about level matriculation, or sometimes we used to refer to that as transition. I'd like to introduce our special education staff that's here tonight, starting with Donna Trujillo. She's one of our directors of special education. Nancy Ingalls, our director of special education. Annika Barton, early childhood education teacher. Kim Bertha, elementary coordinator for the Parker School area region. Ron Wood, early special ed coordinator for Highlands Ranch Elementary. We also have another special ed coordinator, Shannon McCubbin, who couldn't be here tonight because she's teaching another class, and she's within the Castle Rock area. Lisa Creamer, special ed coordinator for middle schools. And Judy Jordan is our special ed coordinator for high schools and for our 18 to 21 programming we call Bridge. So the level matriculation process is the movement of a student from one school to another, or as sometimes we look at it as one level to another, sometimes preschool to kindergarten, kindergarten elementary, elementary to middle, middle to high, high to our 18 to 21 programming, and then in some scenarios going from a school to a charter school. So that's the matriculation process. What we do in our district is that we reach out once we find out a student is moving or matriculating to another level or school. The current school will reach out to the receiving school, the school that in which the student's going to be going, and say, hey, let's set up a meeting so we can talk about this student's needs. So when we do that, we invite the parent and the student, and we talk about the current IEP. We make revisions to that IEP based on where the student's going in the new school year. Maybe accommodations might change, maybe some goals will change, some needs might have changed in the meantime since the last IEP was written, and maybe new services will be offered. So that's all going to be reviewed at that matriculation meeting. Typically those happen around April or May, but sometimes they can start as early as March. So we thought of some tips that might help make the matriculation process easier for your student. Some students and parents are a little anxious about making that big move, especially when you're going from a nice little preschool to big kindergarten, or going from an elementary to a big middle school, or vice versa, when we go to middle to high. And I think when we look at ways to try and reduce the student's anxiety is really let the student have a voice, depending upon their age and their ability, to be able to have a voice in that meeting to have some questions like, am I going to have a locker? You know, what's my day going to look like? And maybe you working with them about some questions that they can ask at the matriculation meeting helps get them involved and have them be a part of the process so they understand that this is a big move, but yet there's going to be some really cool things going to happen in your new school. So we thought that would be a good way to get their input and ask questions. You obviously can come up with different ways. Some students will do a PowerPoint, some will do a letter, some will just have questions ready. It depends on what your level of your student is and how they want to share their input. I've been in a meeting when a student had a scrapbook and they were showing me pictures. So it depends on what you feel is a great way to get them to be involved in that meeting. And then, of course, students and parents may choose to go visit the school. You might visit the school when it's busy. You might visit when it's empty so they can walk around and see where the classrooms are and get a feel for the school and the layout. And that could also help reduce their anxiety about where they're going. So I'd like to introduce Annika Barton, our early childhood coordinator, and she's going to talk a little bit about the transition or the matriculation from preschool to kindergarten, what that process looks like.
Thanks, Jen. So I do work with the preschoolers. I am an early childhood coordinator. Preschoolers may be scary to you guys, but microphones are scary to me. So I'm going to get through this. We have created a list of things that are important for families to know as kiddos shift from preschool age to kindergarten. It's very, very different. A lot of these suggestions actually came from graduate parents that, oh gosh, I wish I would have known this when my kid transitioned. The biggest piece is that there's a shift from the preschool programming, which is very play-based and very social, to more of an academic focus. You will see play goals that'll possibly end. You will see them change. The wording will change as that shift goes over to the academic size. You'll also notice a larger class size. We go from a maximum of 15 kids in the preschool to way more than that in kindergarten. So the class size will change. The structure will also change of the environment. These special education services for students may occur outside the general education. In preschool, we use an integrated model. The students are in the classroom all the time. That may not be the case for kindergarten. Another note about that is when a child is in preschool, all the special education staff members are right there in the classroom for pickup and for drop-off. You could catch them really quickly. That's not the case for elementary. You may have to use a different method to get a hold of your speech pathologist, for example. Another change is a longer day. For some of our kindergarten sites, they do a full day 2 days a week and then a half day on another day. That shift to a full day can be challenging for some kiddos. It may take them up to 3 months to adjust to that. That's something that you just need to communicate with your receiving team and be sure that you're clear about what their kindergarten model actually looks like. We also move towards more student independence. That goes hand in hand with the larger class size. There are more students in the classroom, so students are going to be expected to do more independently. If a student is accessing the full day kindergarten, which is again site-based, they go to lunch in the cafeteria, which is a whole new sensory experience. It is loud, it smells funny, and there are people here, and it will take kids time to learn how to do that. They often will also change classes or teachers to go to specials. So some preschool programs do that occasionally, but for kindergarten they will do that. And another point is that they will have multiple teachers or special education providers. That is similar to the preschool program, but the model again looks different. At this point in time, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Ron Wood, an elementary coordinator. He's going to talk about elementary to middle school transitions.
Okay, so you can read it up there on the slide, but for those parents who have students moving from 6th grade, and some of our schools also only from 5th grade up to the middle school, they're going to go from maybe having 2 teachers a day where they rotate between language arts and math. They may have up to 7 teachers at the middle school. And of those classes, some are mandatory, math, science, your core subjects. Then they'll actually have choices. They might have to, but they do have to take PE and health. Obviously, the day is longer for a lot of these kids. It's much larger. You go from a school of about, what's our biggest elementary school? 500 students, 600 students to over 1,000 potentially at the middle school. And they will rotate classrooms, and those classrooms may not be across the hall from each other. Middle schools are set up that the teachers form pods or groups, so the students stay with the same potentially 7 teachers, and they rotate through those 7 teachers so those teachers can communicate and collaborate to work on skills that they may need, or if some strategy works in one classroom that may not work in the other. The moderate needs teacher is assigned to a caseload of students, and they're in charge of the moderate needs IEPs. There are SSN programs and our center-based programs also at the middle schools, at some of our middle schools. A lot more communication happens. The teachers communicate more on the internet or via phone versus hanging out after school waiting for pickup or that type of communication. There are websites that teachers post their homework to and copies of notes, so you may not get a hard copy of notes. There may be online if that's one of the accommodations on an IEP. Okay, the other big thing is registration is going to be online, and as parents you're going to have to help your students go through. It's not the case manager that's going to take care of that anymore. It's going to be you and the students, may be supported by the case manager, but really it happens at the house. You're going to go online and register. You may need to print schedules, get an ID, show up and sign up for any extracurricular activities or sports. I think, when do we start registration? Right now? Yeah, it's already done. So if you have a 6th grader or a 5th grader, potentially depending on what elementary school they go to, they are already registering or may have already registered for classes for next year. That's when they would pick their electives and which history class they want to take or which science class. And then you will have a matriculation meeting just like you would have had coming from the preschool to the elementary school. The teams will set that up, and that's when you can talk about which levels of classes may be appropriate for your child. And that's it for me.
So middle school to high school is a huge transition as well. All classes count towards credit for graduation, so this is a big switch from middle school. High schools have multiple classes. They must meet the minimum requirements for graduation. This is a common thing that I think many parents are confused about. They do not need a foreign language to graduate from high school, but some colleges do require it. So just to let you know, it is not a requirement. You still have a case manager that oversees your classes and your accommodations and modifications in IEP. One thing that's different is that you have to apply for accommodations for ACT and SAT testing. They're not automatically granted. There's a process that you go through, and ACT and SAT review all the paperwork and then give you approval for extended time or accommodations. Special education classes may differ among the high schools and are assigned based on needs identified in the IEP. There's definitely a lot of different levels of support, and each high school offers those different levels of support. We've got life skills curriculum. Those are for our significant needs students. We have strategies level classes that has modified curriculum in it. We have co-taught classes that has a general ed teacher that teaches along with a special education teacher. We have general education classes, so there's multi-tiers and multi-levels of programming. This is Judy Jordan, who's going to be talking about transition.
All right, so for students, when they finish their high school graduation, many of the students are going to take their diploma and go on to post-secondary education or post-secondary job force. But there are some students who still have things they need to work on, and typically that's going to be our students in the SSN programming. So we have an 18 to 21 program, and it's called our Bridge program. So in that, they really focus on their pre-employment skills, life skills, social skills, and then functional academics. So although a lot of times they'll say we don't really do academics because they're not teaching just a reading class or a language arts class, but it's all combined into the entire class and the entire program. Their diploma is going to be held when they enter the program. They're going to walk through the graduation with their high school, just like all the other graduates, but they're not going to get their diploma at that time. We're going to hold that diploma until either they age out, when they turn the semester they turn 21, or when it's decided upon that the student has met their goals and they no longer need the services. But that's why we have to hold that diploma. And then we have 3 levels of programming. In this past, we've just done it by Parker, Highlands Ranch, and Castle Rock. The program is growing. And so next year, we're going to have a little bit more levels. We'll have our Pathways level, which will be our lowest level for kids that need a significant amount of support. That'll be down in Castle Rock at Douglas County High School. Our Voyagers is probably our biggest area. We'll have 2 programs for that, one in Parker and one in Highlands Ranch. And we're kind of dividing that literally down 25. So if you're on the Highlands Ranch, Castle View side, we'll go to the Highlands Ranch program over on Park Meadows, and then Douglas County, Ponderosa, Chaparral, and Legend will go to the program at Parker, which is on Dransfeld. And then our connections, we're going to divide that the same way. We're not 100% sure yet where that's going to be. It'll probably also be held over at the Highlands Ranch program, which is on Park Meadows. So if y'all have any more questions, though, about the bridge program, I will be over at this table and see you then. Okay. And so Jennifer Templeton is going to talk about charter schools. Oh, I was going to say one more thing. Sorry. So for the bridge program, if you have a student that you think would benefit from the program, we do start having the teachers attend the IEP meetings their junior year and their senior year, just to really make sure that we have the students ready to go and we know who it's going to be. So that's kind of a 2-year process of looking for that transition for the students.
So the matriculation process to a charter school is a little different because charter schools have a lottery, or we have one that has a wait list. So the matriculation process is a little different because your name has to come up on the lottery in order to be offered a placement or a slot at that charter school. And what happens when your name comes up on the process, then the charter schools will look at the enrollment paperwork that you would have filled out to get into that lottery, and which you would have indicated that your student has an IEP. And so then the special education team looks over the student's IEP and has a meeting with you to identify, to make sure that the charter school is the right fit for your family and for your student. And what they do is they look at to make sure that they can meet the needs of your child at that charter school. The charter schools provide mild, moderate programming, so not all students' needs can be met at the charter schools, and that's why they have that meeting. So as part of the enrollment process, we make sure that we've looked at the IEP and reviewed it. And then if your child's pulled from the lottery, they look at and they decide whether or not they can offer what we call free and appropriate education. To make sure that they can meet the needs of your child. And if they can, then your child would be enrolled in the charter school. And special ed services, they do have speech language, they have services, they have OT services, mild, moderate programming for students with an IEP in the charter school. So if you have any other questions about charter school matriculation, I will also be over at this table. So what we'd like to do is we have tables, breakout tables along the side of, around the side of our gym here. And each one is a level in which you can go and get some of your answers to some of the questions that you have. So for preschool to elementary, Annika Barton will be where you're in the back. So Annika's going to be preschool questions. And then we have elementary and middle. Kim and Ron will be there, going to be answering your questions about the matriculation process from elementary to middle. And then Elisa Cremo will be over at the middle school, answering questions about middle school to high school. And Judy will be at the 18 to 21 programming, and I will be at charter. And then Nancy Ingalls and Donna Trujillo, our directors, will be at this table answering any general questions you have about special education. So that's our presentation for this evening, and we'd like to open it up to have you go and break out and get your questions asked. Are there any general questions about matriculation before I break out? Yes.
So every time they go from
Okay, the question was, every time they go from a different level, do we always do a reevaluation? We don't do a reevaluation every time we move because reevaluations happen every 3 years, and obviously we're not matriculating every 3 years. So typically we'll do a review of the IEP, but not necessarily an evaluation where we're gathering all the data and looking at assessment that way. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other general questions? Okay, we will break out. Thank you so much for coming.